They would go for a hit on Saturday evening or even midnight. The following Sunday, they are dressed in fine suits, shining shoes, and spotting clean haircuts on their way to the church. They would confess their sins and probably go for another hit or commit another grave crime or sin the following Monday. This is the reality of the majority of the members of the different cartels in Mexico. Mexico is known for many things, but the primary idea that comes to an average person's mind when Mexico is mentioned is probably cartels and the violence associated with them. They live in a vile, unforgiving world where the littlest of issues could lead to an early grave. Their stock of trade includes drugs, arms, human trafficking, and other contrabands. And from this, they make their living and commit atrocities to protect their stocks or defend their codes. While the majority of the cartel members are Catholic, others are of other Christian denominations. Some practice witchcraft and other religions. However, this doesn't stop them from being members of the sinful groups. Neither does it stop them from committing the gravest of sins. They have internalized the belief that committing sins and confessing consistently absolves them of the sins and gives them the leeway to commit more. However, irrespective of these grave realities, we have had the opportunity to see some former members of cartels who have reverted to Islam and have denounced the violence associated with the cartels or any cartel activities in general, because Islam completely forbids every one of their activities. This now poses the question, and a valid one at that, is Islam the solution to the cartel problem in Mexico? I believe we're all well familiar with Brother Zach Gonzalez, a former high-ranking member of a Mexican cartel who denounced his association with the group and reverted to Islam. His story highlights the fact that there is a solution staring at everyone right in the face. But are we ready to do the work it requires? Sheikh Uthman is another example of the changes possible when a cartel member sees the message of Islam and chooses it. He used to be a notorious gang member and a gun for hire for a Mexican cartel as a teenager. So notorious that he was nicknamed Shooter. But alhamdulillah, today, not only did he become a Muslim and denounced his past ways, but he has also successfully brought hundreds of former gang members to Islam, ridding the streets of the potential violence they may cause. Although Islam in Mexico has its presence traced as far back as the 1950s to the presence of Spanish Muslims and other Muslim immigrants, Islam is still one of the smallest religion in Mexico. Still, it is also the fastest growing among the smaller religions there, as the Catholic Church continues to experience a consistent decline in their numbers. Although the estimated over 111,000 Muslims in Mexico are comprised mainly of immigrants, a sizable number are indigenous Mexicans. There has been a surge in the growth in the numbers of indigenous Mexican Muslims lately through conversion. Mexico is predominantly a Catholic nation, with at least 78% of the population identifying as Catholics. Protestants and other Christians make up the other two of the top three religions, taking the figure to over 90%. An additional 8% do not identify with any religion at all, leaving the other religions to battle for the remaining less than 2%. Irrespective of the high concentration of Catholics, Mexico does not have a state religion. Instead, it identifies as a secular state since the 19th century, effectively meaning freedom of religion and religious association for the average Mexican. From the modest initial success of the early adopters, new Muslims indigenous Muslims and immigrants alike have taken up the task of ensuring the message of Islam gets to everywhere it needs to be in Mexico. Some Muslim brothers in Guadalajara have been active in ensuring there is enough awareness about Islam in their locality.
Side of the main subway station, so we are quite visible and people is getting consciousness, awareness of what Islam really is, alhamdulillah. Every month we are getting between 10 and 15 shahadas per month, especially when it comes to Ramadan. Some days in Ramadan we get 1 or 2 shahadas every day. We did some interviews in the last few days to revert Mexicans, and something in common that they have mentioned is that they want more visits from the Muslims.
As evident online recently and depicted in the previous video, there is now a surge in the growth of Islam with people taking the Shahada in their numbers almost daily. New mosques and praying centers are springing up too to accommodate the new reverts. About a year ago, 2023, a space which used to be a bar or a social center was converted to a refugee center to provide a conducive environment for Muslim refugees and other Muslims to live and practice Islam in Tijuana, Mexico, considering the reputation of Tijuana as one of the most violent cities in Mexico, with up to 2,000 homicides per year on average. This is a move in the right direction.
Migrant advocates have now opened a mosque and a refugee empowerment center, a safe place that will provide an area to pray while also offering housing and legal assistance.
There was a lot of challenges for us as a Muslim, as Latina, building a shelter in Tijuana.
The Latina Muslim Foundation secured the space and runs it. They also feed the occupants and try to foster a sense of community, living to look out for everyone there. The Latina Muslim Foundation is led by Sonia Garcia, who herself is an indigenous Mexican who reverted to Islam. May Allah make it easy for everyone spreading the dawah in Mexico.